Good evening. Thank you all for joining us for this budget workshop this evening. If you'll all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is being led tonight by Christian Bodeo, who's a junior at Eastlake High School. Christian.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Christian. Item number 2, board honors, Mr. Escobar.
Good evening, President Nakara, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Espinosa. My name is Daniel Escobar, Chief Communications Officer for the district, and it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's recognitions. If you'll please step down to receive our honorees. This evening, we honor the Eastlake High School boys varsity soccer team for having an outstanding season and winning 2018-19 UIL championships. The Falcons started their year with an international trip to Barcelona, where they earned 2 victories. They are the only high school soccer team in Texas to compete in Spain. After returning from their trip, they went undefeated in a tournament in Georgetown, Texas. Their talent, devotion, and skill took them even further, earning them a record of 18-7 and yet another playoff spot where they became by-district and area champions. Congratulations to these championship Falcons. They are Jonathan Rascon, Christian Faloa, Jorge Espinosa, Osman Ochoa, Aldo Gallardo, Nomar Ogaz, Cesar Gonzalez, Jaime Carrasco, Gibby Widner, Gio Mora, Manuel Tadeo Novello, Gael Navarrete, Pablo Aguirre, Derek Fraide, Oscar Yanez, David Garcia, Derek Rueda, Alan Arellano, Brian Aguirre, Justin Quiñones, Fernando Castillo, Eric Grado, Juvenal Rodela, Edgar Hernandez. Assistant coach is Larry Durbin. And they are led by head coach Gibby Widner. Just a quick note that the photos taken by our district photographer, Mr. Largo, will be posted on our district website. There's a Smug Mug photo gallery where the photos will be available for free high-resolution download. Yeah. No, not yet. I'm sure it's going to be. Do we see everybody? You want to have Dr. Espinosa step up, or is he good? Oh, he's good there. Okay.
Everybody ready?
Everybody look right at the center. Octavius Largo there.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Keep smiling.
Look straight ahead. One more. Got it. Congratulations once again. Please. Absolutely. You let us know, Coach. We got one more picture. One more picture. Let's do it. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right.
Okay, good. Everybody ready?
Looking right ahead, guys.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right, and since we're doing it, one with a number one. Everybody with a number one. One more. Since we're doing it. Number one. There we go.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Awesome. Congratulations, guys. Yeah, that was good thinking.
Do you know he's written?
They must be really, really trying. Hey, we're happy for you. We're happy for you.
Thank you. Join us. All right, we will continue with item number 3, the board workshop. Mr. Ressa.
Yes, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Tonight we continue with our series of budget workshops where we present to you the different various budgets that you'll be reviewing and adopting for the 2019-20 fiscal year. Here's an agenda of what we're going to talk about. Each of you should have received this budget booklet. It shows the detailed budget. So we'll go over those budgets quickly, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me at the end of the presentation. We'll also discuss the May budget workshop agenda. So here are revenue estimates. Again, we're at $377 million for the operating budget. Keep in mind that these are based on estimates. Estimates will change. We should be getting our preliminary values from the Central Appraisal District later this week. So that might make an adjustment for our local revenues. Also, we're waiting on the legislature to see what happens with House Bill 3 on the Senate side. So it will probably be hopefully the last time we present to you revenue estimates that's at this amount. So again, here are your cost drivers for our operating budget: 2% general pay increase for our employees, additional staffing for Cactus Trails Elementary School, additional instructional positions for the special education department, additional salaries, textbooks, and transportation for the Older College high schools at El Dorado, Pebble Hills, and Eastlake, funding to provide laptops for incoming freshman class, and certainly funding for the grade level transitions at Antoine and Paso del Norte. This is what we provided you several meetings ago. These are additional amounts allocated to certain departments over and above their standard allocation. You're looking at $400,000 for operations, $308,000 for the infrastructure services, $276,000 for fine arts, $170,000 for athletics, $55,000 for instructional technology, and about $390,000 for the other departments. So those totals come up to $1.6 million. We also allocated about $500,000 for athletic officials, as well as the possible increase in student travel when we split from 5A and 6A. Now, the thing you haven't seen before that's now in our budget is a $1.2 million increase in the budget for increasing our substitute daily pay rates. So we understand that certainly there's a need there, and so we're allocating $1.2 million to be able to increase that pay and make it more competitive with respect to what substitutes get paid in the district. So what's not in the budget, and we're still looking at, is additional department position requests and stipend review changes. That will probably come after compensation has been approved by the board. And we're always reviewing our budgets to see if we have any vacancies that need to be eliminated. So our current budget is at $407 million, increase of about $7.8 million from the revised budget. The major increase certainly is in instruction, it's a $12.2 million increase. Again, pay raise, additional instructional positions, and so forth. Now, in your booklet, you will have the detailed line items for this particular budget from pages 26 through 34. And it'll show you not only the differences between the proposed budget and the revised budget, but also the differences between proposed and the original adopted budget for this fiscal year. So we currently stand at a deficit of about $30 million. Again, we'll be making adjustments. Our hope that the next time we meet, we'll have some definitive information with respect to what's happening in the legislature. Hopefully it'll be the last time we show you this deficit as it stands currently. So again, current budget, $407 million for the operating budget. Now, at the request of the board, at the last meeting, if for any reason we have to make adjustments to the board, we don't anticipate doing this, but if we need to, we'd identified some possible reductions to the budget to make sure it balances. Certainly, we have $2 million there allocated for buses. If we need to, we can eliminate that. We can make an adjustment to the transportation chargeback account for about $1 million. We can also eliminate the amount that we have listed for classroom furniture replacement, which is at $500,000. So you're looking at about $2.5 million there. And if need be, again, this would be a last, worst case scenario, we can make some adjustments to the budget. You know, we're getting some runs. We're seeing what House Bill 3 can provide for the district. The Equity Center is saying if we increase our amount over and above the 94 cents, we can generate enough revenue to cover this particular deficit and probably have some more revenue if there isn't any proration, if there isn't any changes made with the Senate. But we have to make sure that we're open to any possibility. So this is something that we're providing as a possibility, but we don't think it's going to happen. We'll see. So the other budgets that you're going to adopt in tandem together that's required by the state is the child nutrition budget as well as the debt service budget. So here are the revenue estimates for the child nutrition budget. As you can see, we budgeted an increase in our earnings for investments of about $210,000. Also, we have increases in the breakfast program revenue amount of $682,000 over our current revised budget and about $800,000 in anticipating that because we're adding both in enrollment as well as we're also providing meals for the supper. So you're looking at an increase of $1.2 million in the revenues for the child nutrition program. Coupled with that, this is the expenses for the child nutrition program. Of course, increases in the payroll because of the increase of general pay increase. We're adding another campus, so that's a whole new kitchen that we're adding, as well as increases in our contracted services. So right now we have a balanced budget in child nutrition program, and again, those increases are due to new campus that we're adding, a totally new kitchen. So with respect to debt service, This is certainly to pay back our debt for building new schools. Increases primarily in property tax collections of about $3.6 million, increase in our budget over our revised budget. This has nothing to do with tax rate. It has to do with what we're projecting an increase in property values. So that's the increase there. And also about $4.6 million in principal and interest, and that's because we're issuing $150 million next month. So as we're issuing those bonds, we're going to have to increase our debt service to repay those bonds over 25 years. So that's why you have that increase at this current time. So with respect to the district's INS tax rate, that rate is going to stay the same. That's not going to increase. We made the increase this current year, and we intend to stay there. So those are the three budgets that you're going to approve in tandem. These other budgets are the internal service budgets that we're going to ask you to also adopt in June, but we'll do it through consent agenda. So briefly, I'll just go through them. We have the print shop. Overall, it's very similar to what we currently have on our revised budget. So you have the proposed budget, the revised budget, and actual expenditures. So we're looking at about an increase of about $28,000 over the current year budget, primarily in supplies and in salaries. For workers' comp, we're showing a budget of about $2.2 million. Increases are certainly not very much. You'll see that there's a difference there in claims. We have to revise our current claims budget because it's lower than what it's going to be. So we'll make an adjustment for the current year claims budget. But you'll see that we have a decrease in our administrative fees, and that's because we went out for bid and we got better prices for administrative services. We have healthcare. This is the healthcare budget. You'll see that there's a lot of zeros there. That's because we're budgeting for the clinic. So you're looking at about $1 million in additional budgeting for salaries as well as startup costs in supplies and equipment. So those amounts are listed there. With respect to claims, we budgeted an additional $1 million over what we currently budgeted, and there's a corresponding decrease to the administrative fees because we went out for bid and Cigna came back with a very aggressive cost. So what you look there is the healthcare budget. So those budgets, along with Title I, is what we'll ask you to adopt through the consent. And again, the Title I budgets, primarily we're taking to you so that the schools can have access to their staff development Title I funds at the beginning of July. In the past, what we've done is we've taken to you at the July board meeting, which is like the third week in July, and that's too late for them. When they get back from our July vacation, they got to go back and they got to make sure that they start entering requisitions so they can contract with either presenters or order supplies for staff development. So, and again, this is just the planning amount, which is lower than the usual maximum entitlement that we get. We'll get additional amounts in the future, in succeeding months. So what you have here is, just again for your information, is proposed salary increases, impacts to the budget. You'll see that with respect to the salaries, $6.7 million at 2.5%. That represents a $1.3 million increase in what we currently have budgeted. So for a starting teacher, that's, for a teacher, that's an increase of $1,363. Starting pay, $49,000, I think it's $824. At 3%, you're looking at an additional $2.7 million to the budget. That's a general pay increase for teachers of $1,636. Starting pay would be $50,097. So with respect to cost, if you look at also the one-time payment, we're here reflecting is if you add a one-time payment of $2.9 million at 2.5%, that's an increase of about $4.2 million. So that's that middle column and towards the bottom. You're seeing that you have a $1.3 million additional cost for the salaries, and then about a $3 million increase because of the one-time $500 payment for all eligible employees. If you're looking at about 3%, then your total impact, if you want to do both the 3% increase as well as the $500 payment, you're looking at about $5.6 million in additional budget. So We're at $407 million. We're looking, if you go at 3%, our budget going to about $413 million. So that's just for you to keep in mind as we kind of go forward and we get more information on the revenue side. Now, what we're presenting here is the fact that when you look at compensation, it's important to also keep in tandem how much a school district puts in for healthcare. Because bottom line, it's one pot of money that goes towards compensation and to healthcare. And when you look at how much we put in $6,900, and this is a comparison showing the first beginning teacher pay for a school district, and you add on top of that what the school district puts in for their healthcare. So you'll see we put in $6,900 over our starting pay. When you compare that to the major school districts here in the area, Sled and El Paso, we're way higher in compensation, total compensation that we're putting in for our employees. You'll see that El Paso puts in $435 per month per employee. I think Esleda puts in $434, that's $5,200. When you add that to their starting pay, you'll see that they put in less than what we do for our employees. Just hope that you keep that in mind, because when we adopt compensation, we need to keep in mind how much we're putting in for healthcare, because it both hits the bottom line. But we don't put in more just for the large school districts here in El Paso. Here's an article that came up about fine school districts, very well-run school districts in Houston, and they're comparing their costs, what they contribute, as well as what their employees are paying. Now, these three districts are part of the TRS Active Care, okay? So just keep in mind that TRS Active Care here in El Paso, you got El Paso ISD, you have Clint ISD, they're part of that program. What I'm hearing is that they're projecting a 5 to 7% increase for school districts who have TRS Active Care. So you'll probably see some school districts who are gonna have to probably put in either some more money into their healthcare plan or probably put some higher raises to compensate for that additional cost burden that's going to be impacted to the employees. But here you'll see certainly one school district that's put in about $3,300 for each employee. Another district that's put in about $3,700, and another district's put in $1,800. So what I submit to you, that these are fine districts. I'm not here, this is not to disparage, but what I want to communicate to the board is that we're putting a lot of money in a healthcare plan for our employees. And what it does is it's one single pot of money, and you got to make sure you put compensation, but you also got to provide for healthcare. And each school district makes their own individual decision about, going through the superintendent and the board as to what you want to provide. So I just want to communicate that fact, is the fact that it's just money that still hits the bottom line, so to speak. And then finally, this is additional, information with respect to those school districts. So that's my presentation. With respect to the May budget workshop, here are the things that we're going to discuss. We'll discuss any updates on legislative action, proposed updates to revenues. We'll see if there's any additional questions that board members have with respect to the detailed budget that you've been provided. And this is the purpose of this meeting, to see if you have any questions on that detailed budgets. And then the compensation proposal. Now, having said that, ordinarily, we had projected having the meeting on May the 7th, but we don't think we're going to have any updated information from the legislature at that time. So we're requesting that, we're recommending to the board that we push that back to May the 16th. That's a Thursday. That's the Thursday right before the regularly scheduled board meeting on Tuesday, which I think is the 23rd and so forth. So instead of meeting on the May the 7th, we'll send out a board communication on Friday and let them know that we're moving it back to the 16th, and that'll provide us some more information. Hopefully we'll have some updated information where we can certainly provide the board with our recommendation based on what's been completed there at the legislature. So that's the presentation. Are there any questions with respect to the presentation or anything that's in this budget that's been provided to the board members?
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Reza.
Thank you.
If there's no further business for this board, we are adjourned. The time is 5:55.